All right. So tomorrow, Saturday night on ESPN, Top Rank Boxing, we got Kell Brook versus Terence Crawford. Nate, you go first. Your opinion.
Well, judging by what I'm looking at, uh, Crawford's got some good stamina. He's got conditioned body shots, speed, power. He leaves his chin out. That's not good. In terms of Brooks, he's got KO power. He's got good accuracy. He's got a good uppercut. Um, this is an interesting one. Um, I'm gonna be honest with you. This could go to anybody, really. But if I had to be honest, I think Brooks is gonna win this fight only because I think he's got the better accuracy. He's got the KO power and all of that, the good uppercut. What do you think, Lee?
What I think, I'm looking at Crawford's strengths and weaknesses as well. I do know that Crawford is good for body shots and how to set them up. He's good at that. Strong chin. He still leaves it a little bit exposed. Not too well at feinting, and and for basically for what I see on Brook, because I did a look into a little bit on Brook too, based on one of his fights, one of his last fights. I believe it was against either Benavidez, GGG, or Porter. I noticed that he isn't really good with his head movement. Correct me if I'm wrong when I say this too, but he took some stiff shots in at least 2 or 3 out of the 12 rounds that I saw. Overall, I mean, for Crawford or Brook, and again, it can go either way. But for me and my limited boxing knowledge, so I'm not an expert on this, I do believe that Brook could take this one if he's smart about it, and he outsmarts and outboxes Crawford. I don't know who's the better fighter between these two because I haven't seen these two in the ring before, but I do believe that Brook can take this one if he's smart about it.
All right. Your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, so I agree with that right there. I don't watch boxing as much as I do the UFC, but as I was reading, it says Crawford's on his 4th title defense, it looks like, and he is ready to fight anybody, and he's putting them in a line. I think he's got to take the advantage of it. It says one of his recent tweets, he says it's I ain't ducking, dodging, hiding from no man on this planet. It's not my fault that these guys that I've been calling out don't want to fight me. Terence Crawford says line him up. So I think this gives him a good opportunity to prove himself really in his 4th title defense. I think he really needs to show that. The fatigue can't get to him, but we're looking at an undefeated fighter versus a 2-loss fighter. So I think it's going to go down to basically who wants to take advantage of it, who wants the title, and who's ready for the next fight already, looking ahead of them in their future. So it's got to be one or the other. Like, of course, it is a fight, but I think Crawford can walk away with this one if he wants to keep lining up these fights, looking in his future.
What do you think, Mario?
I'm surprised we got 2 people voting for Brook because a lot of people ain't voting for Brook for this fight. Here's my problem with Brook. He's the 2 best opponents that he's faced was Errol Spence Jr. and Triple G Gennady Golovkin. Both are great fighters, but Brook, every single time he has faced those top 2 fighters, both those times, he has gotten beat. He has gotten outboxed and outclassed. He outclassed Sean Porter. I mean, even though it was a majority decision, he still outclassed Sean Porter. I think personally that judging by the stats and everything, I think it was more a further fight than what they actually said. But I'll go with this. I'm gonna go Crawford, and the reason why is because if you look at Crawford's resume, Amir Khan, former champion, Joseph Benavidez, former champion. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce the dude's name. Kevalauskas, I think it is. Kevalauskas, that's his name. That guy was a #1 contender. Gamboa, former champion. He's beaten almost everybody in his path, Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford is a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter. Now, when I'm looking at Terence Crawford, I look at the way he fights. There's a couple things that stick out to me. A lot of fighters have been able to clip him when they feint. So when they move their head just a little bit forward and they come with the hook, he's been clipped with it a lot. The other thing I also noticed was his chin has been exposed a lot. Because the thing is with Crawford, in my opinion, I don't really view Crawford as a defensive fighter. I don't. And the reason why is because when Crawford's coming at you, his eyes are forward, but his head is always out there. And when he's coming, a lot of guys have clipped him with hooks. A lot of guys has clipped him with jabs. And a lot of guys, what they do is they'll usually, even though he has a longer reach than them, they'll usually get him with the jab and back him up. And every single time they get him with a jab, Crawford always throws that hook. And a lot of the times he's always missing with that counter hook. So that's another thing that he probably has to watch out for when facing Brook. Here's why Crawford needs to win this fight. The one guy that he needs to fight before his career is over, and he says he's not ducking nobody, and that might be true, I'm not sure. But the one guy that he needs to beat, that he needs to fight, that he needs to beat is Errol Spence Jr. Because if he doesn't fight Errol Spence Jr., this is going to be one of them what if boxing moments, you know? There are so many boxers that could have fought each other. They were always fighting in the same era, and they never got to do it. And Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford needs to happen. But in order for it to happen, Crawford has to be Brook, and Errol Spence has to be, I believe it's Danny Garcia. Yeah, he has to be Danny Garcia, which we're not talking about that right now because that's for a later date. But in order for Crawford and Spence to happen, Crawford has to be Brook, and I think in decisive fashion too. Honestly, I'm gonna be real with you, Brook. I know he's got knocked out by Triple G and Errol Spence Jr. But I personally do think that he is gonna go to distance with him. Is he gonna win, Brook? No. But I truly think he will go to distance. I think this is going to be decisive. I think Crawford's going to beat him. I think he's going to outbox him, outclass him. But Crawford versus Errol Spence needs to happen. And I don't know who's ducking who. I'm not sure. According to Crawford, he says he's not ducking nobody, but every boxer says they're not ducking nobody. There's no boxer on the planet who's boxing right now who's saying, well, I'm ducking this guy. I don't want to fight him. They don't do that, you know? Not many boxers say that. So I don't know who's ducking who, but Crawford versus Spence needs to happen. But in order for it to happen, Crawford has to beat Brooks. And I think the way he can do it is if he gets Brook on them ropes, because Brook on them ropes, when he's on them ropes, it's sad. Honestly, it's really sad. He lacks head movement, Brooks, so you can really clip him in his head. You can really knock him down a couple times. But honestly, I don't know. If something's telling me Brook isn't gonna get knocked out. Something's telling me it. And Crawford's a knockout artist, and I'm saying that right now. But I think Crawford's gonna take him for the 12 rounds. I think he's going to take him for a nice little ride, but I think Crawford's going to win.
Good analysis. Anybody got anything else to add to this?
Yeah, I got a question. What do you by? Obviously, you guys said Brook and Chris said Crawford. How do you think it's going to happen? Knockout, unanimous decision, split decision, TKO?
I would say
Here's what I'll do. I'll let you go first, Nate.
I'll say unanimous decision.
Unanimous decision. What about you, Lee?
I say if Crawford gets Brook on the ropes and really hammers his fists home and is accurate with his punches, which I feel like he's going to do anyways, because hearing your observation makes me say, okay, Crawford's the better fighter given his resume. The fact that I believe that he is a multi-division champion, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, I will be wrong.
Yeah, he is. He's a three. Yeah, he's a three-weight champ. He's a three-weight class champion.
All right. So I believe that this will end in TKO if Crawford has his way.
Okay. What about you, Chris?
Oh man, fatigue's an issue for the both of them. So I mean, if they manage to even make it to 4 rounds, standing up at least, I think the body shots will really affect them. But I easily can see this possibly going a unanimous decision after about halfway through, about 6 rounds in, if the ref sees it in them that they're tired, or if there's something against the ropes, they might be early stoppage, in my opinion. If they can't, one of them can't seal the jaw and can't knock through punches, and it's only coming down to fatigue and wearing each other down, it really could just come down to the unanimous decision of the referee stopping it. So it really depends. It's going to be a gunfight with the hands, you know what I mean? So it really all depends who strikes who and how they take the approach of fighting each other.
Well, I'll say this: Crawford is one of the best body punchers in the game. There's no doubt about it. He absolutely is. He made Amir Khan quit. He has knocked out guys with bots. His body shots are very deadly. He's got speed. Crawford honestly can lay rounds and knock people out. He's got really good Crawford, in my opinion. This is where I'll disagree with Chris. He's got really good stamina. Like, I mean, the dude's knocking people out in 6, 8, 11 rounds. So I mean, he's got really good stamina. The question is, both these guys love to stick their chin out. Both of these guys got knockout power. There's no doubt about that. But from what I've seen, when Crawford is going head to head with somebody, and when Kell Brook is going head to head with somebody, Crawford usually ends up out punching him and out boxing. Kell Brook ends up getting knocked out. But here's the thing. In my opinion, Crawford's toughest fighter, in my opinion, that he's beat was Jose Benavidez. Kell Brook has faced Errol Spence Jr. and has gotten knocked out. Errol Spence Jr. is a fantastic fighter. I think Errol Spence Jr. is better than any competition that Terence Crawford has faced, which is why I'm saying Terence Crawford has faced, in my opinion, good fighters, good former champions. Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. But he has never faced somebody like Errol Spence. He has never faced Sean Porter. He has never faced these insane lightweights. And I'm sorry, not light, welterweights, excuse me. He has not faced these welterweights that he should be facing. And honestly, he's going to get it if he's going to finally meet his match with Errol Spence Jr. But in order to do that, he has to be Brook. And I think he'll do it by unanimous decision. I think he'll maybe knock him down a couple of times, do it very decisively. But I can see this going in 12 rounds for the unanimous decision. Anything you guys want to add?
No, not really. You got anything else to say, Lee?
No. I stand by my claims of a TKO. The only question at this point is how long until that TKO happens. That depends on.
Mike, I got a question. Is this on ESPN tomorrow? This is the one you were talking
Absolutely.
about?
Free on
Yeah.
ESPN. Bob Arum, you are a god.
That's it's on November 14th tomorrow, Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern Time at the MGM Grand in Las Vegas on ESPN.